There is a couple drops of oil on the ground. Tomorrow I'm going to try to drive my 40-year-old Audi Quattro almost 900 miles from my house to Salt Lake City, and the car is pretty much ready to go as it is. It's Friday today, and I'm going to do the last few preparations before I leave in the morning. I'm going to mount a little jerry can in the trunk, I'm going to put some PPF on the front windshield to protect it from rock chips, and I'm also going to make a little road trip kit with tools and spare parts. The first thing I'm going to do is mount this gas can in the trunk. It's about a 1.5 gallon gas can, which hopefully will be enough to get me out of a pinch. It's normally for ATVs. They mount them on the front rack or the rear, but I'm going to find a place in the trunk to put it so that it's nice and secure and not bouncing around. So the idea is I'm going to remove this reservoir for the rear window sprayer, which I've never used, and then fabricate a bracket to hold the gas can in place using the existing holes that are already there. I've never gotten the rear wiper arm or the sprayer to work on this car, but even though I'm taking it off, I'm not going to throw it away. I'm just going to keep it in the parts bin, and maybe sometime in the future I'll put it back on and get it working. Here's the piece of steel I got. I already started bending it into the shape that I want it to be, and I've drawn out the pattern that I want it to look like. I'm going to start cutting it up and see if it fits on this gas can. This is kind of one of those things where you just keep cutting and measuring until it sort of looks like you want it to. They can be pretty time consuming, and I don't want to spend all day on this, but hopefully it'll come together pretty quick. So that actually worked pretty good. I did kind of want it to be perfectly up and down, but it kind of follows the body line perfectly now because it's tucked up in there as far as it can possibly go, which I think is the best option because I want as much space as possible in the trunk, and hopefully I won't be needing access to it that much. So I'm just gonna pull it apart and put a quick coat of paint on it and put it all back together, and I'll consider that done. The next thing I need to do on the car is put this window PPF on. It's basically like clear vinyl that goes over the window. It's about 0.4 of an inch thick, so it's twice as thick as regular car vinyl. This will hopefully protect my brand new windshield from rock chips. The windows are really hard to get. They don't make them anymore, so I had to import one from Europe and pay somebody who is very experienced to install it. So I want to protect that the best that I can and not have to do that again. So of course, nobody likes to admit when they've messed up. I sprayed some alcohol underneath the PPF to try to get it to stick a little bit better as like tack solution, and I totally forgot to water it down. I know you're supposed to use like a 10-to-1 ratio, and I was just in a hurry and didn't even think about it, but it hazed the vinyl really badly, and it also like ruined the adhesive that was on there. So that's just gonna have to wait for another day because I don't have any more PPF left. I think it's time to move on to something a lot easier. My cigarette lighter is really old and corroded. It barely works a lot of the times. So I'm going to replace it with this little one that is natively a USB-A and a USB-C. So I'll be able to plug my phone. I'll be able to charge my drone with it, my iPad. Hopefully it'll just be a little bit easier than having that plug-in one that kept popping out and was unreliable anyways. Of course, it's not as easy as I thought. I had to take this piece out because the hole is just a tiny bit too small, but I'm forcibly threading this thing in here, so it's actually gonna be pretty tight, which is kind of nice, and it's all going back together pretty quickly. The only thing I really don't like about these is I could not seem to find one without a light. These old German cars have the cigarette lighter on all the time, which means the light is going to be on all the time. I might try to figure out a way to block off the light or paint it. I broke the LED off of another one of them and it stopped working, so I'm not going to do that again. I figure I should probably save myself some time in the morning and fill up the car now. It's on E, so I would have had to stop immediately. But it's got a 20-gallon gas tank, so it could probably go almost 400 miles on one fill. This will also give me a chance to fill up my new gas can in the trunk, too. I have no idea why, but the second I got home, a radiator hose just blew off the car as I was backing it into the driveway. That's never happened before. This car doesn't really have overheating problems, so it definitely surprised me. Doesn't make me feel good right before I'm about to go on this trip, but luckily, like, radiator hose stuff is kind of easy to fix as long as you have, the right stuff. Hopefully it's not something more catastrophic like a water pump or even like a, jammed up thermostat. I'm gonna put it back together, start the car up, let it idle in the driveway and see how hot it gets, see if the fan's coming on properly and all that. I have no idea what caused that. The car's all back together and it seems to be operating normally. I have had some problems with the fan not coming on before, but I think that's all resolved, and I even put a light on the dash now that I can see to make sure the fans are running properly. I guess it was just, luck of the draw that it happened in my driveway. Hopefully it doesn't happen again on the drive, but I'm not gonna let it deter me. I'm definitely gonna bring some extra water though. So now that that's all sorted out, I've got my travel kit ready. I've got a bunch of tools, spare parts. I packed some radiator hoses, some alternator belts, of course, a duct tape, oil, coolant, all that stuff. I've even got a spare fuel pump and a fuel filter because who knows? But you know what they say, if you've got it, you won't need it. So at this point, there really isn't anything else I can do. So tomorrow morning at 5 a.m., I'm out of here. All right, it's 5 a.m. just like I promised. Gonna see if we can break this thing. I wanted to get started on the road as early as possible, but I'm not super excited about driving this car at night, so it should be light out in about 30 or 45 minutes. I just can't see, you know, that well. It's finally getting light out, and I've only been driving an hour, but I'm already in the middle of nowhere. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but I'm gonna try to do as much of this drive as I can with my maps set to avoid highways. And I mostly wanted to just do that so that I could experience some fun back roads, which is exactly what I'm doing right now. Schemanker Bridge. So when I was turning the GoPros on earlier, when I went under that bridge, I noticed the car smelled a little bit like oil. So I've been kind of looking for a safer place to stop and pull over so I can pop the hood here and take a look. The oil pressure is still really good and normal, but more than likely this thing's, you know, just been running and pushing out a few drops of oil, and hopefully that's what I'm hoping. You know, and it's just getting hot and burning it off.
Turn right onto Bellinger Scan Road.
This is another bridge I wanted to drive through. It's called Short Covered Bridge. I feel like it's the kind of thing you only see in movies. So I've been driving for 4 hours, and I decided I'd stop off in Bend, Oregon. It's a little ski town I actually used to go to with my dad back in the day. I'm just gonna grab some coffee and use the restroom, stretch my legs. But the next thing will be a place called Glass Butte. May or may not be the coolest thing ever. It's got kind of like a scenic lookout point, and supposedly the ground is black, broken up rocks. So maybe it'll be cool, maybe it won't. Maybe I'll get to drive the car on some dirt road or gravel, and we'll see. We'll see how it goes. The rain's finally arrived. I was kind of hoping that it would rain today. Didn't really bother doing a good job washing my car, so that's all good. I treated my window with some Rain-X, and it seems like it's working pretty well. All right, the turnout came super quick. Looks like it's all gravel. This is pretty bumpy. It says I only have a quarter mile left, so. I have arrived at the Glass Butte. I see some glass rocks. It's nothing special. Should probably give the car a little once over, make sure none of my tires are flat. That's gonna f***ing suck. Kind of some cool little area. I'm not sure what people do here exactly, if it's hiking or what. I don't really want to go out there and get bit by something, but there might be like a little overlook over there if you keep going. I'm not sure how much more I want to beat up the Quattro. It can handle a lot of this, but I'm just a little worried about the tires, like popping a sidewall or something on a rock. Might be possible. This glass rock stuff is pretty cool though. It looks like glass and it sounds like glass, but it's not glass. So I don't think I've even mentioned why I'm driving to Salt Lake City in the first place. Some friends and I are meeting out on the Bonville Salt Flats because Dylan Hughes, the Formula Drift driver, is gonna try to do 200 miles an hour on his Kawasaki motorcycle. The event's been rained out for the last 2 years, so we haven't been able to go. This year they've got a new tune on the bike and they put it on the dyno. The bike was able to do 212. So they're pretty confident that it's gonna hit the mark this year. So you wouldn't think that I'd actually be dumb enough to run out of gas, but I stopped at the last gas station for the next 120 miles and they were actually completely out of gas. So I had to backtrack 20 minutes to a different town, fill up there. Luckily, they had a good food truck, so they fired me up a hamburger, and now I'm parked in front of the city's original post office, apparently, enjoying it. So that all worked out, and I got to drive on another gravel road. Good. I'm just gonna take a quick look at the car. Might add a tiny bit of oil just in case. There is a couple drops of oil on the ground. I mean, the oil doesn't look that bad. It's above the hash marks, so I'm just gonna leave it. I think that's where it's supposed to be. Other than that, I don't really see anything else that requires attention. It looks pretty normal to me, as bad as it does look. Kind of out here in the middle of nowhere. Whew. She's dirty now, smells like an old farm truck, god dang. I'm at my stopping point for the first day, 606 miles total. The last 4 hours though have been pretty boring, just long straight highway driving. It's not really what I was hoping for. I stopped at the Oregon-Nevada border and topped off the gas tank, and I would love to keep going, but there's really nothing out here for another 3 hours, and the sun is starting to set, so I don't want to be driving out in the middle of nowhere, you know, at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. My friends aren't going to be at Bonville until late tomorrow night, so I've got plenty of time tomorrow to explore. I think there's some caves and some trails I might check out. I can't wait to get there tomorrow and show off the car, and I'm super proud of myself actually for getting the car to where it is now from a year ago when I first bought it. Day 2 is gonna be a little easier. I could pretty much jump on the freeway right now and be at Wendover, Utah, which is where our hotel is, in about 3.5 hours, but I've been looking on the maps. I'm trying to find some fun, curvy roads. I think I'm gonna go explore maybe some little hiking trails. There's nothing I'm really worried about other than the unexpected. I kept hearing some insanely annoying noise and I thought it was like part of the suspension, but it turns out it's my gas can back here rocking back and forth. I'm gonna stuff something in between there maybe and see if I can get that to stop. Pretty minimal problem to have. Hopefully that will be the extent of my problems today. The map wants me to take these frontage roads, but some of them are closed and they're not a through road, so it's kicking me off on these gravel roads. I'm not really trying to beat the car up that bad, and I've also got a lot of expensive camera equipment in the trunk, so it'll take me days to get there if I take all gravel roads. So the place I put on my maps is called Willow Creek Reservoir, and I anticipated that it was gonna be pavement, but the maps have me on a dirt road again. I've come this far, so I'm just gonna keep going and see. Hopefully it'll turn back into pavement. My phone just got enough service to load the satellite view, and I feel pretty stupid. I'm zooming in now, and it's literally a dirt road for the next 100 miles. It's not really something that I anticipated happening. I figured this was gonna be like a fun, windy, paved road, but it's not. So unfortunately, I'm gonna turn around and drive back to the freeway, which sucks, because this looked like fun. Going over Emigrant Pass right now, it's probably the highest elevation I'll be the entire trip. It's way more than a mile, 6,114 feet. Wow. There is a place called the Tungsten Mine. I'm not sure if it's cool or not. It's mostly paved the whole way there, but then getting out without having to backtrack to continue going east is basically gonna be 30 or 40 minutes of gravel, which I think will be fine. I'm just gonna take it easy. What I'm finding out is Eastern Oregon and Nevada isn't really like the upper Pacific Northwest region that I'm used to, where you can find some curvy, fun, foresty roads. Everything out here is either just straight freeways or gravel. You're kind of out in the middle of the desert. There's not really much to do. I just pulled over because I was gonna put the drone up in the air, but I popped the hood to take a look and it looked like the coolant was really low all of a sudden. And then I thought I heard some weird like bubbling noise. I think it was just the birds that were making some weird sound down here by this stream. This thing pretty much smells like coolant and oil 24/7. It's really easy to talk yourself into thinking that there might be a problem when there's not. Oh geez, got a whole swarm of birds chasing the drone. There's way too many people out here for a dead end road. I don't understand. I've arrived at the Tungsten Lake Mine. Doesn't really look like much of a mine. It's just a couple of crummy old houses. The bummer is I either got to go 2 hours back that way to get around, or I drive 30 miles on the gravel road, which has some pretty bad like washboards on it. But of course, everyone out here is driving lifted SUVs except for me. I don't want to backtrack, so I think I'm just gonna take it really slow on the way out of here and pray that nothing breaks. Even though it is a gravel road, it's a nice flat one that doesn't have the crazy washboard bumps like that last one did. It was only about 5 miles of that, thank goodness. I see pavement finally. Yes. I'm finally here at my final destination in Wendover, Nevada. The car did 997 miles and I didn't turn a single wrench on it. I only had to pop the hood a few times to check the fluids, but it was all good. Tomorrow, Dylan's gonna do 200 miles an hour on his motorcycle on the Bonville Salt Flats, and I can't wait to see that.